Hello.
Hey.
Okay, we have a real front end here. It's working really
Real front end.
Yeah, it's working really
It's working,
fine
yeah.
with hard-coded data.
Yeah.
We are hard-coding the list right here.
Not ideal.
Not ideal. We should be
Not
getting this
ideal.
data from the server.
Yes.
I propose that we do this in 2 steps.
Okay.
Step number 1, we get fake data from the server,
API,
but
from
render
the
it for real.
Yeah.
So fake data, but render it for real.
Yeah.
And then we get the real data coming from the server for
Yes.
true once and for all.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because currently we are getting the data from the code. It's hard-coded.
Yeah, that's not good.
And we already have a way to get this data from the server. We can see it in Postman.
Yes.
It looks like this.
Yeah.
This is JSON, right?
Yeah.
And this is a real request from that we are issuing to the server for
and we're
real
actually
this
getting,
time.
yes, this is something that's actually technically on the server and the API is just fetching it.
Yes. So let's pretend that in JavaScript we know how to get this data. And I'm going to declare a variable. I'm going to call it real fake data.
Sure.
And it's a string coming from the server.
Yeah.
That has that shape, right?
Yes.
That's the string, the real fake data. And our goal for this episode is to render this data in this list.
Yeah. So we're going to parse JSON, extract the different components, and send it out in a list.
Yeah.
Also, I think just add descriptions in that, please. Like, I can't tell what's happening.
Oh, yeah, that's good. So, hello.
I don't. I could see where that was going, in all fairness.
So, we expect to see 2 items.
Yes.
Not 4.
Yes.
We expect to see them
hello and Yash. Yeah.
Yash.
Yeah.
And, well, we could understand this is a string. We could try to understand the string using string manipulation in JavaScript.
Yeah. But that's
a terrible idea.
You're trying to find brackets and match them. I don't want to do stacks and data structures here.
Yeah. So real fake data JSON.
Yeah. That's a better idea.
Now let's get the real fake data based on this
out
JSON.
of JSON.
Yeah,
yes.
there is a support.
JSON object, yeah.
There is support for JSON in JavaScript. It's native.
Yeah.
We had to install Javalin on the server, but on the client, it comes for free.
Yeah.
And we can see that it's called parse.
Yeah.
So we can parse this string, which is the real fake data JSON. And now let's look at this real fake data.
Yes.
So I'll save this and restart the server and refresh the browser.
The browser will have hello Yash. Yeah. That's still hard-coded data.
It's still hard-coded.
But we can see it in the console.
In the console, we can see the real fake data JSON, yes. And we can see that it's a string.
Yes.
But the real fake data is a JavaScript
object. Yes.
It's not even JSON any longer. It has been parsed.
Yeah. So it's a JavaScript object.
It's a JavaScript object.
Okay. Yeah, I can see 0 and 1 as JavaScript indices rather than the identifiers that we've set.
Yeah. So now this is JavaScript. It's not even JSON any longer. It has been parsed into JavaScript.
So we can actually use it now.
We can actually use this as an actual list in JavaScript. And, well, how do we use this list? Let's first see some JavaScript functionalities for using the list.
Yeah.
And then we'll come here and try to use these functionalities to build this list.
Yeah, to actually have
so let's play with this data structure in the console. So real fake data. Well, it's a list. And there are many methods.
Yes.
Many methods to work with a list. If you're working with lists in Java, let's go to Java because I think that people that are watching are more familiar with Java. So suppose that you have a list in Java and I'm using list of 1, 2, and 3. And this is a list of the numbers 1, 2, and 3. Right? Well, there are different ways to use this list. One is to use a for each.
Loop, yeah. Oh yeah, for each. Java has the for each.
So for a number in this list. And then we can use the number here.
Yep.
Maybe people are familiar with a for loop.
Which is more standard.
Probably.
Frankly.
Yeah. And it looks like this.
Yeah.
And then you have a list here.
You have the length of the list. Yep.
I don't know how to get the length of a list in Java.
I don't know. Length?
Size? Sounds good to me. And then we can use list at I to be our number.
Yep.
Not a statement. Yeah, whatever.
And
so we can even, for instance, system
dot
out
yeah. Dot
print number.
That is, it should be happy with that.
Oh, and this is not how you index in a list in Java. This is how you do it. So yeah, people may be familiar with this kind of loop, and people may be familiar with this kind of loop. In JavaScript, we are going to use something that is closer to this kind of loop, okay? And you can see that when I use it in IntelliJ, I have this auto-completion. There is this auto-completion thing that is called for each. And I can just click here, and it will generate some code for me. Well, that's because some people call it a for each loop.
Yeah.
Okay, with that in mind, let's go back to JavaScript. Now, in JavaScript, I'll do this in the console so we can play with it.
Okay.
So there is a method
called
for each.
Oh.
Isn't that cool?
That's convenient.
Yes, it is.
Oh, convenient. JavaScript works with callbacks.
Yes, that's what we are going to use right now. So that's step number one. There is a for each thing in JavaScript. Yeah. But note that the for each is not a construct like if is a construct or for is a construct in the language. For each is a method in the list. So coming back to the Java example just for a second, it's like we had this list and we were able to say list.forEach, which in fact it seems like you can in Java in the latest versions of that. Well, and then you have to say what you want to do. So just for a moment, let's write this in JavaScript. So you can say number and then use the number in here. Now what am I writing? Yeah, something like what am I writing here?
So you're passing in the number, which is each element of the list, and then you're just printing that number.
Yes. This is a lambda. We saw these lambdas before when we were writing the server, when we were writing the requests. We saw this as blocks of code with an argument. That's exactly what this is as well. This is a block of code with an argument. The block of code is what to do with each element, and the argument is the element. And this works in Java. It also works in JavaScript exactly the same. The idea is exactly the same. We do have to write things slightly different, though. The syntax is slightly different, but the idea is the same. So now we have a number, and instead of writing it like this, we write it like this. Do you see the difference? Instead of a thin arrow, it's a fat arrow.
Instead of a hyphen, it's an equal to.
Yes. And that's the only difference. Instead of saying system out, we say console.log
here.
.log the number.
That should do.
Except that our real fake data is not a number. So, you know what? Let's see these two side by side and
see what prints out.
We'll see Java here on the right, and we'll see JavaScript here on the left. And we'll see them exactly the same, okay? So here we have a variable with a list. I'm going to declare a variable with a list, and this is how you write a list in JavaScript. And now we'll do this loop. It is loop for each number console log number semicolon close everything. And there you go. It prints each number in turn.
What's undefined?
Undefined is what this returns.
Oh, right. There's no return.
So yeah, this expression, it does the looping, but it also returns something. And it returns undefined, which is JavaScript's way of saying, I don't return pretty much anything you can use. I just return undefined. Okay, and that's different from an expression that would look like this, because this is, it doesn't return anything. It's just an expression.
Just a print statement.
Just like some code to run, but it doesn't really return anything. Well, in this case, it's a method call, so it returns something. There may be a way for us to see what this for each returns. In Java, it returns void, which is Java's way of saying undefined. Undefined. I don't really return anything you can use. Okay, so this is how you loop. But there are other ways to loop, because suppose that you don't want to just print things, but you want to use or do something with it. Suppose that you want to add 10 to each element in the list. In Java, there is a method called map. No, there isn't. So in Java, you are out of luck. But in JavaScript, there is a method called map. And if you just run this, it will do the same. It will print 1, 2, and 3. But note that what it's returning. It's returning a list of undefineds.
So each element is returning something, not the array as a whole being returning undefined.
Yes. Let's understand what this is returning. So console.log is another one of the, like for each, console.log is an operation that returns undefined. So if we are running with map instead of for each, what map does is it accumulates all the returns of all the elements and builds a list with it.
And then returns all of it.
And then returns all of it. So suppose that you want to add 10 to each element, you can say just number plus 10. Of course, you have to say return that.
And there you go.
And then you have a list of 1 plus 10, 2 plus 10, and 3 plus 10. There is also a shorthand. If you want to say return right away, you can just eliminate the braces and the semicolon. Also works. This is just some JavaScript notation to make things easier. Okay. Now we have a way to use the real fake data.
So let's actually go ahead and do something with it.
Yes. Now we understand how to sort of use the real fake data. So let's see what we can do with it. Well, we can real fake data.map. And each element of the real fake data is an item.
And so you just want to return. What do you want to return?
Well, let's suppose for now, just for the sake of demonstration, let's suppose that you want to return the identifier or even print the description. That's what we are going to do. We are going to print the description. Why not? Or really return the description. So item dot.
How about this?
Description.
So can you return the identifier and print the description? Will it ever throw an undefined here?
You want to return
the description.
Return the description.
But I print the identifier first.
But console.log the item identifier first.
So will this ever give me undefined returns or anything?
You won't see any undefined because you're printing something that exists. The identifier is not undefined. And you are returning something that exists. So you will not see any undefineds. In fact, let's save, restart the server, run this code.
And see what happens.
And see everything happening in the console. So it printed 0 and 1. And the list with the descriptions, it was here, but then it was discarded. We didn't do anything with that list.
So how about you put a breakpoint on 24 and let's actually see if something...
Well, I have a better idea. Let's just log the whole return. I really wish there was a way to wrap some expression with parentheses in IntelliJ. Okay. Reload. So you see the prints.
Okay, I got it.
So you see the console.log running first. And then it builds the whole list and outputs the whole list as well. Okay. now we have a way to generate this, right?
Yes.
Because all we want is first, we don't want the console.log, we just want the
Item
description.
descriptions. Yep.
And we can build these guys like this. Because this is JSX, we can just use this to build elements, right?
Oh, right. You can do item.description there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now let's see what happens when we do this, because it's going to be interesting.
It's going to print an HTML element?
Sort of. Refresh, and then we see a list. And we see the HTML elements as represented
but it is a React element because that's where JSX comes in.
Yes, we are seeing some React representations of HTML.
Yes.
But what is interesting is, look at the description. It's not the description of the item, it's literally item.description.
Yeah. Okay.
What we want here is to not have a literal text. We want to escape back to JavaScript. Yeah. So, okay, let's get our heads straight for a moment, because this is it's inception, right? We start with HTML.
Okay.
And then we have a scripts tag that allows us to write some JavaScript.
Yes.
And then we write some JavaScript. And somewhere in the JavaScript, because we are using JSX,
we're using HTML again.
We go back to HTML. Now, in this HTML, we want to pop back to JavaScript. This is how you do it. You put some braces.
Oh.
This is you going back to JavaScript.
I thought dollar would be...
You are thinking maybe about this template strings, which is another JavaScript feature.
Okay.
But in React, in JSX really, the way you escape back is with the braces. You can even see that now IntelliJ is highlighting
the
description with a different color. It wasn't before. It was showing it like this. So now it knows that it's going back to JavaScript.
Yep.
And then we save this,
and rerun
refresh.
And run this actually.
And now we can see that the child is hello and the other child is Yash. Okay, we know how to build this list now. We just have to put it in place. So we now have this code.
Return it as something else now.
We'll get this code out. Yeah. And here we want to, we want to pop back to JavaScript so that we can write this thing.
Yes.
And we can get rid of the hard coding, the hard coded data.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll format this like this. Do you like it like this?
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay. I may prefer it like this. I don't know. Okay, so here we are. Again, let's do this again. We are in HTML.
Yeah.
We have a scripts tag to go to JavaScript. We use JSX to go back to HTML. And then
we go back to JavaScript.
The script. And then we map over the list. And then we write some HTML. And then we go back to JavaScript.
Yeah. Oh my. How many is that? Like 5 layers now?
To keep your head straight, just remember that anytime you're writing a tag like this, you go back to HTML.
Yep.
Braces bring you back to JavaScript.
Yep.
And okay, let's run this and see that we are really doing the thing we're claiming to be.
See?
Yep, it's still there.
Yep.
So now we know how to get real fake data from the server and render it.
Yeah. This was complicated. But yeah, it's just, I think here the only problem is wrapping your head around how many times you're going from HTML to JavaScript and back, that's all.
Yes.
Syntax is pretty easy, IntelliJ helps you out. You just need to know, like you said, tags get you to HTML, parentheses get you back to JavaScript, that's all.
Braces get you back to JavaScript. Yep. Well, the real trick here is to keep your head straight is if you get things wrong, you will see literal JavaScript appearing as text.
Yep.
So if I forget, for instance, these braces
here,
this becomes
the list.
This becomes something you will see on the page because it becomes literal text.
Yes.
So here, it's even worse.
No.
It's even worse because this is getting you to JavaScript, right? So this item variable is never defined. This item variable, this is a JavaScript variable. It was defined here.
Yeah.
But this is literal
this is
text.
String. Yeah, so it won't work. Yep.
So you won't even see. And then you get some item is undefined.
Yep.
And do we get something useful as, we clicked on the error in the console. We clicked on the error and we even saw that this was the item that was undefined. This was expected to be here, but you forgot to go back
to
JavaScript. So if you do it like this, and then
you have to add another brace, do you?
Yeah, I added braces here around the thing, and I don't know if there is a way for us to rerun this from the developer tools.
I
just don't know.
Not JavaScript, yeah.
But then you realize your problem, you go here, you change it back, and save and reload and
just at the time the server had not started, that's all.
Yeah, so I think we should commit this and call it an episode.
Yeah.
So use real fake data from the server. And commit.
Yeah. And if you go to your pull request.
I should also push them.
Yes. Push. That's fine.
And then, let's go to GitHub, TODOOSE, and see that we had that pull request that work in progress.
It's getting updated.
Yeah, we can see some new commits.
Yep.
Including this one.
Scroll up. So what we can start ticking off things. We can explain the script imports is done. That is done.
Well, I'm gonna say that this is half done. We still don't reach the server to get this data, which we should do. And that's going to be our next episode, I think.
Yes.
Okay, so I see you on the next one when we finally get to check
actual data, yeah. All right.